Mario Ebanks, past president of the Rotary Club of Grand Cayman Central, and I'm very honored to be your chairman this evening, representing the organizers and representing this wonderful program. As you can see from your programs that all of you have, we have the 24th annual inter-school debating competition. And it's named after one of our distinguished past President Fred Speirs. And it's organized by Rotary Club of Grand Cayman Central and Rotary Club of Grand Cayman Sunrise, and sponsored by British Caymanian. And I welcome all of you here. I welcome those who will watch this event later on TV and also maybe hear it on the radio. And I thank all of you for coming out, supporters of the schools, mentors, coaches, parents, friends, and well-wishers. This program of Rotary is a program that revolves around youth service and also international understanding. And the overriding intention of the school debates is to equip young people with the skills to debate, resolve disputes, settle conflicts in a peaceful and a very appropriate manner. And that's very important, especially today. I want to also recognize Media Past President of our club, Media Past President Larry Tibbetts. Please stand, yes. Thank you, Larry. This event was actually supposed to take place during Media Past President Larry's year, but this is the first day of the presidency of our new president, President Sandy Crown, who is also there, so please stand. So, Past President and Media Past President Larry, this is still your legacy program, and we know that probably this year, for the first time, President Sandy will have 2 debate finals in her year, which is probably a Guinness Book of World Records, but it's a wonderful program. Past President Woody Foster cannot be here today because he is traveling, and Sue Mander is here representing Sunrise, and also other members of the various clubs, and as I said, other supporters. We have today, this evening, a distinguished panel of judges, and I would like to introduce them and tell you a bit about them, because it is very impressive. Not only are the debaters impressive, our judges are also equally impressive. And I will have the teams introduce themselves soon, but to give you, in case you don't know, just a bit of a navigation on them. To my left is the opposer of the Moot, the Layman East Scott High School from Cayman Brack. So please put your hands together to the opposers. And to my right, the proposers of the Moot, or the move of the Moot, the St. Ignatius High School. Please welcome them. The most beautiful of the 3 judges is daughter of past President Fred Speirs, Allyson. And Allyson completed her LLB honors degree at the University of Liverpool in 2014. She currently works as a paralegal at Dinner Martin Attorneys in the Corporate Commercial Department and assists the partners in all aspects of company formations, real estate transactions, and immigration-related work. As a bright and eager Caymanian, she shows great potential and is keen to start her career as an attorney in the Cayman Islands. Since completing the Cayman Islands professional practice course in May 2015, she's been offered articles at Maples and Calder, which she is to start in September 2015. Please welcome Allyson Speirs. The next distinguished judge is Dr. the Honorable Linford A. Pierson, OB/JP, PhD, FCCA. Dr. Pierson was born in East End, Grand Cayman, a few years ago, 1941. After returning from high school in Jamaica in 1959, followed by a year as a merchant seaman with national bulk carriers, he moved to Georgetown, where he has since resided. From his early childhood, Dr. Pierson believed that anything worth doing is worth doing well. This personal mantra led him in 1978 to become the first-born Caymanian to qualify as a professional accountant. He worked for 16 years in the Cayman Islands Civil Service from 1963 to 1979, where he filled a number of senior positions, including Principal Secretary, now Chief Officer, for Health, Education and Social Services, and Deputy Financial Secretary, acting as Financial Secretary on various occasions. During the 1990s, he was employed in various private sector positions, including Cayman Airways, a local partner of KPMG Thornriddle, which is a Canadian chartered accounting firm, and he also held directorships in a number of private companies. Dr. Pierson, as many of you know, represented the District of Georgetown for 16 plus years, in 1984 to 88, 1988 to 92, 96 to 2000, and 2000 to 2005, as elected member of the Legislative Assembly. During his political career, he filled the position of Cabinet Minister for 7 years. In his first term as Minister, he completed a number of important projects, including the Cayman Islands Building Code, upgrade of the telecommunication systems to accommodate the 911 system, installation of bulk storage terminal in Cayman Brac, and other important infrastructure programs. Also very notable is Dr. Pierson successfully negotiated the liberalization of the telecommunications sector, which had hitherto been monopolized by a single telecommunication company, Cable and Wireless. And in 2002, government honored Dr. Pierson, naming the Linford Pierson Highway after him, in recognition of his accomplishments as the Minister with responsibility for road works. In 2003, Dr. Pierson was elected as the Speaker of the Legislative Assembly and served in that position until his retirement in March 2005. In addition to his combined public service, which has spanned approximately 33 years, including in the civil service and as a public representative, he assisted in a number of civic or community services. As also an outstanding Rotarian since 1968, he served as President of Rotary Club of Grand Cayman Central, our club, one of our clubs who are sponsoring this event today, in 1988 to 1989, and also Assistant District Governor of Rotary District 7020. He didn't stop there though. In 2008, Dr. Pierson earned a Master's of Arts degree in Pastoral Psychology and Counseling from St. Stephen's College in Edmonton, Alberta. The title of his thesis for his master's degree was An Evaluation of the Views of Respondents relative to the impact of early childhood intervention programs in 2 selected communities of the Cayman Islands. He also went on and earned a PhD degree in educational psychology in 2012 from Bodden University, USA, in which he obtained a whopping 4.0 GPA, which is the highest that one can get. His dissertation for his PhD entitled Working Memory Training to Improve School Preparedness of Children with Attention Deficit Hyperactivity Disorder. In 2010, he was inducted into Psi-Chi, the International Honor Society in Psychology. He's a fellow of the Institute of Chartered Certified Accountants. In 2001, Dr. Pierson was appointed by Her Majesty the Queen as an officer of the Most Excellent Order of the British Empire, OBE. He's also Justice of the Peace, Notary Public, and also other commendations from business and government over the years. As a former Speaker of the Legislative Assembly, Dr. Pierson has had the honour bestowed on him of the Honourable Dr. Linford Pierson. Dr. Pierson is also an educational psychologist, and is married to Sharon, also an attorney at law, and they have 3 children, 2 stepchildren, 8 grandchildren, and 1 grandchild. Please, 1 great-grandchild, sorry. Please welcome Dr. Honorable Linford Pierson. Last but by no means least of our distinguished panel of judges is President J.A. Roy Bodden, JP, President of University College of the Cayman Islands. Mr. Roy Bodden, first and foremost, is an educator and cultural historian. He graduated with honours from Mico College in Jamaica, or Mico University College, Jamaica. In 1967, he returned home to become the first principal of the East End Primary School. He subsequently went on to receive his bachelor's at Trent University, Ontario, Canada, and his master's in education from Queen's University, Ontario, Canada. Having completed these studies, he enrolled in a graduate studies program of the Maxwell School of Citizenship and Public Affairs of Syracuse University. In 1988, he was elected to represent the District of Bodden Town in the Legislative Assembly and served 4 consecutive terms until 2005. He was the Minister of Education, Human Resources and Culture from 2000 to 2005. In 2003, in recognition of his services in education and community affairs, a Doctor of Humanities degree was conferred upon Mr. Bodden by the International College of the Cayman Islands. And in 2011, he received the Distinguished Alumni Award from Trent University, Ontario, Canada. Mr. Bodden has written and published several books on the social, cultural, economic, and political evolution of the Cayman Islands. And if you have not read any of them or all of them, I encourage you to do so. The first one was the Cayman Islands, Social, Political, and Economic Challenges, 1950 to 1978. 2, the Cayman Island Transition, the Politics, History, and Psychology of a Changing Society. 3, Stories My Grandfather Never Told Me, a collection of Caymanian short stories. 4, Patronage, Personalities and Parties, Cayman Politics from 1950 to 2000. 5, A Gathering of Old Men, a collection of stories from Guardhouse. And 6, so far, Reflections from a Broken Mirror, poems about a Caymanian society. Please welcome Mr. J.A. Roy Bodden. Also want to recognize and welcome and thank another distinguished member of the officials, past President Layman, who is a distinguished timekeeper, and other activities as well. So thank you very much, Len. The judges and the teams and their coaches and mentors have also been briefed on the rules, and including other members of other teams as well, some of who are here today. And I want to also recognize the gentleman coach from the CIS, Cayman International School, for your hard work and for coming to the finals. Even though your team didn't come, but you're here to conduct some intelligence for next year, I'm sure. But thank you very much for coming. The rules are as follows in summary. The proposing team, the move of the Moot, will have 8 minutes. That is the first speaker. The second speaker is the opposer, and the first speaker of the opposing team will also have 8 minutes. Then we move to the next speaker, who will be the first supporting speaker of the opposing team, who will have 6 minutes to speak. Then we have the next speaker, which will be speaker number 4, is the second opposing speaker of 6 minutes. Then we go back to the proposing team for a second supporting speaker for 4 minutes. Then again, the next speaker will be the sixth speaker, and the final speaker, the third opposer, will have 5 minutes. Then we have a summing up, and that will be 4 minutes by each team. In all cases, a warning bell will sound 1 minute before the expiry of the allotted time, and it will sound like that. Then the timekeeper will raise his finger, his right hand, to get your attention, debaters. At that time, the speaker may finish an incomplete sentence, but may not continue further. This summing up may be done by any member of the team, but no new ideas may be brought up at that time. Team members may confer quietly while an opponent is speaking, but not so that they distract the speaker.
All right, the first bell is the 1 minute warning. They can continue to do what they would like until the final bell, at which point they can finish their sentence.
You got that? Thank you. In all cases, the speaker must yield to the chairman of the debate. And I am the chairman of the debate, and the judges have selected as their chairman the Honorable Dr. Linford Pierson. But it'll be me who you have to worry about if you go over time. Until the judges give their decision, of course. In such event, the clock shall be stopped and restarted only when the speaker is invited by the chair to continue. So that dispenses with the formalities, the rules, and unless the judges have any other instructions for me, I will move on then to formally declare the moot and then thereafter invite the first speaker. As you'll see from your program, the moot is very topical, very deep, very provocative, and I am certainly looking forward to it. And before I actually introduce that, I just want to draw your attention to your programs that have the introduction or the information, the profile of past President Fred Speirs. And I would like to read a bit of that, if I might. Frederick Speirs was born in Glasgow, Scotland in 1948. He was educated there in Glasgow and decided to pursue a career as a teacher. He first moved to the Cayman Islands in 1979 to take up leadership role as the head of mathematics at the then Cayman Islands High School, and spent the next 30 years working diligently in the same capacity or the other, ensuring a quality education for all students in Cayman. In typical Fred Speirs fashion, educating the populace was not enough for him. He wanted to give back to the community in as many ways as possible. So Fred became a member of the Rotary Club of Grand Cayman Central in 1990. According to the script often read when inducting new members, becoming a member of the club cannot make you a Rotarian. It was Fred's heart for Rotary and the embodiment of the principles of Rotary in every aspect of his life, and not membership that made Fred Speirs such an outstanding Rotarian. As past president and all-around model Rotarian, Fred was the energy behind the organisation of the inter-school debate competition. Tonight we will witness the 24th annual debate competition finals, and for this we remember and honour past President Fred Speirs for his contribution to education, the Cayman Islands community, and Rotary International. The moot then is as follows. The Cayman Islands should set a date for independence in the United Kingdom or the UK to be not later than the year 2025. I now invite the first speaker of the proposing team to move the moot.
Good evening, ladies, gentlemen, judges, and Mr. Chairman. I am Leslie Tatum, and I am a fifth-generation Caymanian. And who's better to speak on behalf of the Caymanian people than a Caymanian themselves? Today I will be representing St. Ignatius, along with Delaney Augustine and Aliana Dodds, who are also both Caymanians. Today we are here to debate on one of the most pressing issues facing our country, independence. We are proposers of the moot that by 2025, the Cayman Islands will be ready for independence. By independence, we mean a condition in which Cayman residents and population exercise self-government and sovereignty over our own country, whereby we are no longer a dependent territory and have complete freedom over our political, economical, social, and legislative affairs, where we truly emancipate ourselves from the UK and embrace our Caymanian identity. The Oxford English Dictionary defines decolonization as the withdrawal from its colonies of a colonial power, the acquisition of political or economic independence by such colonies. It could be understood politically as attaining independence, autonomous home rule, or culturally, in other words, the removal of pernicious colonial effects. This is what we are proposing could happen by the year 2025. There are three main points that we would like to cover today to prove that the independence of the Cayman Islands is the right way forward for our country. First, I will tell you that independence is inevitable. We are already on the path to it with legislation and lawmaking continuing to pave the way. Secondly, Delaney would like to explain to you why putting forward an economic argument is basically irrelevant at this stage, as we have 10 years to plan and ready ourselves. Yes, we do understand that there are possible financial pitfalls. However, we can plan for those eventualities. Finally, Allyson will illustrate that democracy, national identity, and civic pride is what independence will develop. We are currently at risk of any economic success that we may have facing our country. For our first point, we would like to cover or outline the natural inevitability of independence. Even to our own premier, Alden McLaughlin, states in an interview with Cayman 27 on January 6, 2014, that it's inevitable. He says, Cayman will have to become an independent nation. Let me start by saying that the Cayman Islands had its first Bill of Rights in 2012, after its newly modernized constitution in 2009. In world history, the advancement of a country's constitution is the first step towards independence. We would like to establish this evening that we have already made the significant but subtle steps in determining our future. Allow me to refer to the Daily Telegraph, a respected broadsheet paper in the UK, known for its publication of the much-hailed WikiLeaks on February 14, 2013, where it published the most recent British government confidential reports on its colonies. The British overseas territories are referred to as, and I quote, 14 far-flung possessions under British sovereignty that hearken to the era when Britannia truly ruled the waves. Possessions? Really? This country belongs to nobody except its citizens. No, ladies and gentlemen, independence is an emotive issue. This is why we should be concerned in being an overseas territory. Allow me to continue with this document. One Foreign and Commonwealth Office official accurately shared their views on the colonies, that we are remnants of empire acquired by Great Britain, when the phrase, "the sun never sets on the British Empire," could be spoken without a trace of irony. We are here today to convince you that the only Cayman sunset the British Empire will see is if they choose to make one in London to toast the independence of this great nation in 2025. The fact is, Cayman is not a fully independent and sovereign nation. Cayman was, and still is, defined as a self-governing colony under Section 8 of the Cayman Islands Constitution Act of 1959, an act of the British, not the Cayman Legislative Assembly. In the 2009 Constitution, it states that the governor may act in the interests of the Cayman Islands so long as it is consistent with the interests of the United Kingdom. Part 4, Section 80, subsection 1 of our Constitution still states, any law assented to by the governor can still be disallowed by Her Majesty through a Secretary of State. So let's be honest, ladies and gentlemen. We are still under the watchful eye of Her Majesty, which seems a bit antiquated. When most people think of the Cayman Islands, they think of our love of democracy, equality, our spirit of enterprise against the odds as people who have come so far. A mere 50 years ago, the Cayman Islands was not only isolated from its neighbors, but its own people, as each district acquired its own dialect, where our main industries were turtling and thatch rope. We have moved from the islands that time once forgot. to one of the top 5 jurisdictions in the global financial industry. In other words, what took the UK hundreds of years to achieve took the Cayman Islands less than 50 years, which is showing you that we would be ready by the year 2025 to become independent. Caymanian citizens are subjects of a foreign monarch, not selected through merit, but selected by a lottery of birth, which specifically excludes certain faiths for some people. This is a system so discriminatory. This is a system so discriminatory that it's not allowed in the Caymanian law. Matter of fact, any democratic civil society. But yet, this is how our head of state is selected. How can young Caymanians like myself believe that our society is set up toward hard work, talents, and with diligence and tenacity, we can get anywhere in life? Anywhere but the top job reserved for the firstborn non-Catholic of a certain highly privileged English family. Figuratively speaking, Mr. Chairman, Cayman will not be starting at the ground floor in this 15-story building, but we will be starting on the 10th floor because we can use other territories' mistakes and successes. Please remember that we're not saying that this process will be an easy one, but we do believe within the time frame given that it can be achievable and valuable. After all these years, ladies and gentlemen, we need to cut the umbilical cord tying us to the mother country. And until we do that, our nation's birth will remain incomplete. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Tatum. Could I just see your cards, please?
Sorry.
Confirm to the judges and officials that the first speaker had 3 cards as required. I now invite the first speaker for the opposing team to present your cards. Please proceed.
Thomas Jefferson once said, "The care of human life and happiness, and not their destruction, is the first and only object of good government." Master Chairperson, my friends, distinguished judges, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. The moot we are debating tonight is not a simple one. We are discussing the future of the Cayman Islands. Your future, my future, our children's future, should we opt for independence. Therefore, we must not be swayed by the many misconceptions presented as we debate the moot. The Cayman Islands should set a date for independence by the year 2025. Dictionary.com defines independence as freedom from the control, influence, support, aid, or the like of others. Synonyms for independence include freedom, separation, liberty, and self-governance. The moot also states by the year 2025, this being a mere 10 years ahead from where we are now. Therefore, the topic we are discussing is whether the Cayman Islands should set a date between now and the year 2025 to separate or free itself from the influence of Britain and become a totally self-governing country. As first speaker, I will take you back in time when some of our neighboring countries were at a similar juncture in history, the decisions they made to become independent, and their present state. Our second speaker will focus on the advantages of remaining a British overseas territory and the consequences of becoming independent. Our third speaker will bring closure by reminding us of the hard truth of the unreliability of the global economy, therefore questioning the proposed date of 2025. The Cayman Islands has been a British overseas territory since the late 1600s. In the 1960s, siblings of Britain, Jamaica, and the Cayman Islands both faced the question of whether to become independent. We chose to remain with Britain, a decision that was undeniably the right one, given the present state of our country. On August 6, 1962, Jamaica officially chose to become an independent nation. What followed were many businessmen and foreign investors fled to other countries and took their money with them. Why? They felt that the country was neither equipped nor capable of self-governance. In the half-century since independence, hopes for a fairer, better Jamaica have not been met. Instead, a system of clientism has evolved, in which patron politicians provide their client supporters with jobs, protection, and a flow of money, as well as narcotics and firearms in return for their loyalty. With an annual murder rate of around 1,500, Jamaica is one of the world's most violent countries, on par with South Africa and Colombia. A recent report by Amnesty International, entitled "Let Them Kill Each Other," depicted a nation in tragic disorder. Ladies and gentlemen, this could be the fate of our beloved Cayman Islands, as political imbalance, coupled with an unstable economy, would create the domino effects of crime and violence. Following in the footsteps of Jamaica was Trinidad and Tobago, who gained independence on August 31st, 1962, with similar results as that of Jamaica. The country's economy began to falter, and major investors began to move out of the territory. More recently, poverty, inequality, crime, and drugs have become major issues throughout the country, even with the economy on the rebound. In the late 2011, the government implemented a state of emergency to deal with what they deemed specific and emerging threats. Along with the state of emergency, a curfew in particular areas of the country was imposed. Unlike other countries, such as Jamaica with its bauxite and sugarcane, or Trinidad and Tobago with its oil and gas, the Cayman Islands economy is strictly dependent on the financial services and tourism industries. Therefore, maintaining a stable government is of utmost importance. Haiti is yet another prime example of total failure after gaining independence. Haiti was once called the jewel of the Antilles. Economists estimate that in the 1750s, Haiti provided as much as 50% of the gross national product of France. That is half of France's budget. Even so, after parting from France in 1804, Haiti has gone on to become one of the poorest countries in the world. The Scots and the Quebecers are about the most nationalistic people in the world. Yet, when it came to decide in referendums whether they wanted to secede, they were pragmatic enough to realize that together is better than alone. And what about our most zealous competitors, Bermuda? A 2014 survey revealed that 73% of Bermudians prefer to remain a British overseas territory. These people didn't vote because of lack of nationalistic feelings. They voted for what they felt was best for their country. Why? Because the people believed the two countries were better together. Should we believe any different? Our union with England is a thread that has kept this country woven together for 345 years. The structure of our government, their expert advice on financial matters, the checks and balances are among the long list our next speaker will expand on. Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed judges, should we consider independence now? A resounding no. Rather, let us consider the relationship that exists between Puerto Rico and the United States. There is no doubt that they enjoy a unique political position akin to free association with the US. Free association is a form of self-government which is freely chosen in the absence of external interference by the people of an overseas territory or colony. Free association is not a permanent relationship such as statehood. It is not independence, but is a transitional status whereby an emerging sovereign state develops and solidifies its political, cultural, and economic foundations, thereby allowing the future generation to make a final decision on the political status they will have for their people. Looking closely at the shared rights and responsibilities of freely associated states, I believe the Cayman Islands could benefit from such a further advancement on our Constitution. Ladies and gentlemen, as I close, I'd just like to remind you of the severity of this discussion. This is not just any petty issue. we're discussing the future of our country, our economy, and ultimately our people. Let us not act prematurely. Instead, let us act together, looking only for the growth and development of our wonderful islands.
Thank you. I will now give the judges some time if they need to look at their sheets if necessary. And then once I get a nod from you, I will call the next speaker. And just for the audience and for the record, the first speaker on either side is allowed by the rules 3 cards, 3 times 3x5 inch cue cards with writing on both sides. And the 2 first speakers complied. The speaker 2 on each side is allowed 2 of those 3x5 cue cards, and then the third speaker is allowed 1. And then summing up, you're allowed 1. So just to let the audience know, and of course if the debaters don't comply, this is your time, your last chance to change your notes to comply. I also want, while the judges are taking their time to mark the score sheets, I want to also welcome all of the visitors from Cayman Brac. Would you please stand, all the Cayman Brac visitors? Welcome. Some of you are staying tonight. It's a very safe island, as you know. Enjoy yourself. And I'm sure you also want to get back to the beautiful Cayman Brac. But you're welcome to stay as long as you want. I also want to thank the Chief Justice, the Court Administrator, and Rotarian Nova Hall for allowing us to use these august chambers. So thank you very much to the judiciary for the opportunity to use this. I now ask the third speaker, who is the first supporting speaker from the proposing team, to come and speak to us. But show me your cards first. Comply.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Delani Augustin, and I will be outlining the economic reasons for the Cayman Islands to become independent in the year 2025. Focusing on our lack of financial support from Britain, Cayman's ability to support herself financially and efficiently self-govern, and the misconceptions associated with independence. Over the course of the 20th century, Cayman has tried to gradually move away from Britain and to take charge of her own affairs. We're not blind to the fact that some people invest in the Cayman Islands because they have American money and British security. And we're not denying our dependence upon the global economic community. However, over the past 50 years, the Cayman Islands has continued to advance monumentally. We've written a new constitution, invoked new laws, and became one of the world's leading offshore financial sectors. All of these things have been done in a relatively short time, compared to the centuries it has taken other countries to take such monumental steps forward. If this pace is maintained, there is no doubt that the Cayman Islands will be ready for independence by the year 2025. In the government policy paper published by the UK on the 7th of May this year, the UK outlined its commitments on behalf of British overseas territories, not one of which pertained to a commitment on the behalf of the Cayman Islands, except to say that they would ensure promotion of free trade and to tackle the global challenges of illicit finance and tax evasion, clearly alluding to the Cayman Islands. But in this paper, we've received no help with anything, unlike other wealthy territories such as Bermuda, who received Darwin grants to help with the invasive lionfish species. Cayman continues to deal with this issue and all other issues financially unaided. So how exactly is our dependence beneficial? Britain provides us with no financial support. But regardless, the longevity of our financial industry is already guaranteed. The Cayman Islands financial sector has been working closely in hand with the Cayman Islands Monetary Authority and government to pass progressive new legislation to ensure not only that we're up to par with other global organizations, but that there are no allegations of fraud, money laundering, or tax evasion. Accusations and suspicions bred completely of fear due to the simple fact that we are not subject to direct taxation. Furthermore, our financial industry has only continued to improve over the years. Wouldn't independence provide further incentive to maintain this trend? The numerous arguments, Not only has the Cayman Islands been ranked #1 for 5 consecutive years by the banker as the #1 specialized financial center, but it continues to bring in over 65% of our revenue. This may be a scary statistic to some, and may invoke thoughts along the lines of, what if the industry was to go under? But why would it? As I've previously said, our government and financial industry are taking steps to ensure this will not happen. The numerous arguments against independence are almost always based on faulty information or are designed to reinforce existing misconceptions in regards to independence. For example, cost. Some may say that the cost of independence would be massive, but in truth, it would be minimal. There would be no requirement to instantly rebrand all government equipment, buildings, and stationery. This could happen gradually, over time. Signs, logos, new coins, and notes can be produced by simply changing the dies at the mint. In truth, the main cost for our independence would come from holding a public vote, which is, when you think about it, simply the cost of running a democracy, a blessing that is worth every cent. Some may also say that previously dependent countries gone independent are all failed states, the most common example being Jamaica. Oh, look at the crime and corruption. This is nonsense. There are a great many successful previously independent countries gone independent, such as Germany, Brazil, France, and the USA. We can take our cue from them. In fact, most of the world's countries are independent republics, so why aren't we? What's holding us back from independence in the year 2025? Furthermore, being in a monarchy does not guarantee stability. The current civil war in Northern Ireland is a sad testament to that. We have to be the masters of our own destiny. Furthermore, in regards to Speaker 1 on the opposing team, why would our expats leave like they have in Jamaica and other countries which did go independent many years ago? Centuries, and there are no other examples of countries in our economic status that have gone independent. So this example is clearly inadequate. Furthermore, the Cayman Islands will not cease to be a beautiful, safe, and alluring place to live. Why would they leave? In conclusion, the Cayman Islands should definitely move towards independence for the year 2025, as our status as a dependency does nothing for us, and we are clearly capable of governing ourselves. Cayman continues to display her efficiency as a country, and with no help from the UK, has continued to advance monumentally over the years. I firmly believe that a push towards independence will be beneficial and will provide incentive for positive changes such as improvements in infrastructure and the development of our own army. It will provide a sense of identity and pride in the Cayman people. The Cayman Islands has never been as successful and self-sufficient as today. Now is the time to act. Now is the time to recreate ourselves as an independent Cayman Islands. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, and I will await the cue from the officials before I call the next speaker. Now I call the next speaker, the second opposing speaker, to speak for 6 minutes. Clyde.
My friends, please note the timeless caution of the legendary poet and writer Maya Angelou. Independence is a heady draught, and if you drink it when you're young, it can have the same effect on your brain as young wine does. It does not matter that its taste is not always appealing, but it is addictive, and with each sip, you will want more. Much debate has been had about what would happen if the Cayman Islands were to become independent under British rule. In attempting to objectively assess the prudence of this question, we would also need to ask the counter question. What would happen to the Cayman Islands' future without the UK? The utopia painted by the proposition reminds me of many young people who would every now and then have a burst of inspiration and arrogantly declare their longing to leave home. Yes, there's a certain thrill to the idea of being independent. But regrettably, many of them hop on the bandwagon without realizing the risks and downfalls this decision will lead to. When Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II visited the Cayman Islands in 1983, veteran legislator Miss Annie Bodden, a Caymanian, said, "We do not wish that to have our status changed ever, ever, ever." Also, in 1993, the United Nations National Committee on Decolonization visit provoked powerful opposition in the Cayman Islands. The then leader of government business, the Honorable Thomas Jefferson, stated, "Self-determination, as far as the Cayman Islands is concerned, is being in a position where we can support ourselves financially and leave the doors open for the UK and to be a part of the British system." The people of the Cayman Islands do not want a mad rush forward into other forms of constitutional change. Now, why would these individuals with unselfish vested interest in the progress of our home not recommend independence? The answer is simple. They saw the merit that this relationship is reaping and would continue to reap for the Cayman Islands. The Cayman Islands is now much more firmly integrated into the world system of tourism, migration, and culture because of our connection with Britain. As the proposition has said, we should cut the umbilical cord. But like when we move away from our parents would give us advice no matter if we like it or not. There's a myth in the public domain, and one being purported by our friends, that because the Cayman Islands is a British overseas territory, that there is no autonomy. This is certainly not the case. The changes reflected in the new constitution, which came into effect in 2009, clearly state and provide for a greater degree of internal self-governance in the Cayman Islands, and therefore reflect the more modern relationship between the UK and our islands. It is undeniable that the Cayman Islands' robust economy is the envy of many. We share the same climate, the same heavy reliance on tourism. We even share the same resources of sand and sea. But we don't have an army. We let go of the UK, and then we would have to fund our own army. Remove the UK, and which provides us with defense, security, and the protection of our people. Ladies and gentlemen, when Argentina invaded the Falklands in 1982, the British went to war with Argentina, 8,000 miles away, to protect and defend its 1,800 subjects. Yes, that's right, 8,000 miles away to protect their 1,800 subjects. Don't you think that we as the Cayman Islands should have a protector like that? And once we go independent, we will be left vulnerable to acts of terrorism and other violent acts. The Cayman Islands does not have the abundant resources that many of our neighboring territories have. But what we do have in abundance is our economic and political stability. These attract investors and AA3 ratings from Moody's, the world's foremost rating financial agency. According to The Independent, an established British newspaper. A British passport allows its user to go to 174 different countries visa-free. This passport allows the Caymanians and its people to become a part of the European Union. For us, our position is clear. Let us adhere to the advice of the Honorable Thomas Jefferson. Do not mad rush forward into other forms of constitutional change. And 10 years' time is a mad rush forward to independence. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Speaker from the opposing team of the Moot, Layman East High School. Now, once I get the nod from the judges, we will move to the fifth and sixth speaker. They will each have 4 minutes to speak, and they'll each be allowed one 3x5 cue card as their notes. Please now welcome the second supporting speaker in the proposing team. Comply.
Good afternoon, judges and Mr. Chairperson. There is no written definition of a Caymanian. We don't all look the same, and we certainly don't agree on the same things, but there is a distinct pride that every Caymanian possesses when speaking about their country. Now, my question is, do the people who represent us at international conferences, make vigorous legislative decisions for us, and essentially own us, even fathom this pride that we Caymanians possess? No, of course not. Certainly there has been great benefits from being a British overseas territory, but what could be more beneficial than being the face of our own identity rather than wearing the mask the UK has given us? If you were having brain surgery, I can assure that everyone in here would want a neurosurgeon performing that surgery rather than an orthopedic surgeon. So why not have the people who know Cayman's people, heritage, culture, and frankly the country best, operate the country itself? This is the exact predicament we are in. Cayman in 2025 will be sufficient enough to run and operate itself efficiently. Cayman should no longer have to defend their heritage and culture in regarding the fact that we are a minority of our own population in our own country. Our culture and our heritage is our pride. They are gifts that we should be celebrating with others, but instead we have to defend them and protect them as they can be easily threatened. No longer should we have to be threatened or overwhelmed by this. If we take charge and seek independence in 2025, we will be a success. When was the last time that you described the Cayman Islands without referring to it as a British overseas territory? Independence means we will be a stronger, greater, and more independent, keyword independent country. The New Caymanian said in 1992, in the past 2 decades, the Cayman Islands has opted for economic over cultural growth. The result has been an ongoing struggle to create a national identity. There's a simple solution to this, everybody, and it's independence. England, when was the last time they had any contribution to us financially? And any legislative decision is a decision. It's not advice, as my opposition has gestured. If we say what you want about Jamaica's economic and financial state, but I guarantee you, you will find no other person with so much country and pride for their country than a Jamaican. When they celebrated their 50th anniversary, not too long ago, there was a unfathomable amount of excitement and overwhelming of joy that they had when realizing that they were an independent nation. Yes, it's great that Britain has ruled us for 345 years, but if the chick can fly, let it leave the nest. Still, we will be a Commonwealth country. We're not completely severing ourselves off from society and much rather less the UK. They will still be oversee us as and give us advice, or most so, less advice in this case, rather than decisions they are making for us now.
My opposition has represented a false dichotomy. They have stated that Cayman will be a complete failure or a success. This isn't the case. Of course, there will be mishaps along the way to after independence, but this is something we can gradually adjust to. There is no comparison to Cayman. There is no other Caribbean like Cayman. We are the only Caribbean country, one of the few Caribbean countries that have street names. That is a big step, apparently. But Cayman can do much greater than that if we were to go independent. Also, there's never been a referendum. The opposition does not know what the people of Cayman want because they've never had the option for it. If we give people the option, I can guarantee you that Cayman would want to be independent. Cayman is ready to be independent. The question is Britain ready to let us go? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Speaker number 5, second supporting speaker for the proposition. I invite the sixth speaker, the third speaker from the opposition. Complete.
Ladies and gentlemen, my colleagues have shown you the plight of a number of countries that have left the protective wings of their mother country and the sad demise that have fallen them. They have also showed you the numerous benefits we are currently enjoying from the symbiotic relationship with the UK. There's an important phrase in the Moot by 2025 that should not be ignored. For whilst we may be lured into thinking, hey, let's take the bold, shaky, uncertain step as proposed by the other team. Let us seriously weigh the facts. Would we really be ready by 2025? Do our friends have a crystal ball that shows 2025 to be a magical year, the year of economic maturity in the Cayman Islands? It is unwise to set a time frame for independence in the Cayman Islands. 10 years is not a lot of time in the economic world. 10 years is unrealistic when one looks at the variables affecting our economies today. The global landscape of which we are a part of is going through economic recession. Dennis M. Nally, chairman of PricewaterhouseCoopers, in a report produced by the Cayman Islands Journal, observed that the world is facing significant challenges, economically, politically, and socially. CEOs overall remain cautious in their near-term outlook, as well as for growth prospects in their own companies. Paul Biles, managing director of Focus Consulting, an experienced economist and finance professional, reported to the Cayman Islands Journal in 2011 that 10 years prior, the national debt was a mere 143 million, but has then increased by over 500% to a daunting figure of 600 million by June 2012. Ladies and gentlemen, we are still trying to pay off our colossal debt. It will be foolhardy given the unpredictability of the world's market, given how fragile the offshore banking with the changing laws and governments, and the US tightening its citizens' tax regime to put forward a term limit of 2025. The Cayman Islands is heavily dependent on the US market, so whatever happens there will affect us. If we're to roll over ourselves from the UK in the next 10 years, we'd actually be sending a message that we can stand on our own. But unlike our present policy, once we break, there is no turning back. The second speaker in the proposing team stated that the US and other countries to be successful after independence. But can we really compare the Cayman Islands to the US or other countries? Look at the landmass. and their natural resources. Most importantly, look at their immigration policy. They attract the best in the world, and within a few years, they grant them citizenship or become citizens. Can we do that? We certainly can attract the best in the world, but can we grant them status in even 15 years? Cayman would be swamped, and we would be in a significant minority. Let me conclude with a word of caution from the allegorical novel Animal Farm. The animals revolted to gain independence from the humans, only to find themselves in a worse position. Should the Cayman Islands consider independence at some point? Possibly, yes. But should we set a term limit of 2025 as the date for actualization of this dream? That would be unrealistic. Thank you.
Thank you, sixth speaker, the third speaker for the opposition. We've just concluded the 6 speakers, so we have the 3 speakers from the opposing team, 3 from the opposing team. And coming up next is an equally exciting part, which is the summing up, where they think on their feet, and as you heard in the rules earlier, no new ideas are to be introduced. And let us, before we have I get the judges nod, but before we continue, let us give both teams a round of applause. Thank you for that resounding round of applause. I think also it's very noteworthy that we have a very distinguished panel of judges. We've had so in the previous years, but this year we have 2 former ministers of government, and of those 2, one was a former speaker of the Legislative Assembly. So again, I want to thank the judges for coming, the 2 gentlemen, and of course the lovely young lady Allyson Speirs. So thank you all very much again. And President Roy Bodden said to me, when I was talking to him about doing it, he said that he had Bible study tonight, and he's very committed to Bible study on Wednesday night. But he said only me, Mario, and these young people and this debate will bring him out tonight. So thank you very much for I'm not sure it will be as spiritually fulfilling, but certainly academic. Now, how this works is the same format that one of our former politicians, who the former speaker and the former minister will recall, he used to say that the opposition may have its say, but the government will have its way. So what happens next is that the opposition will speak first, and they will speak for that the speaker who they choose will speak for 4 minutes, and the proposition, or who I would call the government in this case of that little joke, will speak last and have the final say. So I will now call the first speaker to sum up from the opposing team, Layman Scott High School, to do the summing up, and 1 card and speaking for 4 minutes. Comply.
Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished judges, as we come to the end of our deliberation, allow me to remind you of our main points, as we show that unequivocally the proposal for the Cayman Islands to set a date for independence by the year 2025 is unwise. Jamaica and the Cayman Islands both face the question of whether to become independent of Britain. The Cayman Islands chose to remain with Britain, a decision that was undeniably the right one, given the prosperity of our country today. Since independence in 1962, hopes for a fairer, better Jamaica have not been met. Jamaica also has an annual murder rate of around 1,500, making it one of the most violent countries in the world. Trinidad and Tobago's economy, after gaining independence, began to falter, and major investors began to move out of the territory. Poverty, inequality, crime, and drugs have become major issues throughout the country. Ladies and gentlemen, this could be the fate of our beloved Cayman Islands if we were to follow that path and seek independence. The Scots, the Quebecers, and our rivals, the Bermudians, are among the most nationalistic people in the world. Yet, when it came to decide in referendums whether they wanted to secede, they realized that together is better than alone. If we were to go along with the proposition, then we would need to ask the pertinent question: what would the Cayman Islands' future be without the UK? Veteran legislator Miss Annie Bodden told the Queen in 1983, "We do not wish to have our status changed ever, ever, ever." Why not? It is undeniable that the Cayman Islands' robust economy is the envy of many. The Cayman Islands does not have the abundant natural resources as many of our neighboring territories. What we do have in abundance is our resilience, our economic and political stability. These values attract investors and AA3 ratings from Moody's, the world's foremost financial rating agency. By becoming independent, we run the risk of destabilizing our economy. Remove the UK, and we would need to fund our own army. This would be a very costly and unnecessary expenditure. Britain provides us with defense, security, and safety of our people. Therefore, we do not need to have embassies all around the world. A British passport allows its holder to visit 174 countries, visa-free. They can also be part of the European Union, which gives them the right to work in any country in Europe. The global landscape of which we are part is going through economic recession. It would be foolhardy, given the unpredictability of the world's market, given the vulnerability of our offshore banking. With the changing laws and governments and the US tightening its citizens' regime, to put forward a term limit of 2025. We are still paying off a colossal debt of $600 million, though we boast a surplus of $135 million. Esteemed judges, ladies and gentlemen, we the opposition do understand that we must be prepared for independence when it does come. However, let me remind you of the words of the Honorable Thomas Jefferson. Let us not mad rush into independence. Thank you.
Thank you. Summing up, Speaker for the opposition. So the opposition has had its say. So now, once the judges give me their nod, I will ask the proposition to also do their summing up for 4 minutes, using no more than one 3x5-inch cue card. Comply.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I remind you that it is independence we are talking about here. What country with any pride would not want to seek independence for themselves? Sure, the opposition has given us great reasons for why we should not go independent now, but they have yet to supply sufficient reasons for why we should not be independent in 2025. Cayman has had vast improvements to its imports, GDP, and unemployment rates, proving that our country is self-sufficient, as UK played no role in any of these changes. We are no longer just a turtling and rope-making industry, as our opposition has made us seem to be, that we cannot comply sufficiently on our own. The UK has not done anything for us financially in numerous years. We've done everything for ourselves. So why not just strip away the title of the UK above us and have our own title for ourselves? An independent Cayman means that we make decisions that reflect Cayman's priorities, not the UK. This means that we are able to make decisions regarding healthcare and education that we solely make ourselves.
Independence would also release a period of energy and ambition and effort among the people of Cayman that would allow them the opportunity to transform their own country. My opposition has stated that Cayman does not have an army. An army would be a great opportunity for this island, as we have many young men and women who are unemployed, and not only would it give them jobs, it would also instill good morals. South Korea also has no natural resources, yet they are one of the 8th striving economies in the world. Does the opposition have a crystal ball that they can see into the future and tell us that we're going to be a complete failure if we go independent? No. 10 years may not be a lot of time, but it was enough time for Cayman to increase their GDP by 14.7%. And may I say, Speaker 3, that Animal Farm was written by George Orwell, and it was about communism, and it cannot be completely relevant to this moot, as we are talking about democracy. Also, the USA steps in regards to security. In Hurricane Ivan, they were one of the first countries here to support us. This means we do have security, and we do have someone there to back us up. And I can assure you that the UK, even though we may go independent, they will still be there to back us up. Also, to mention, we are also financially finance competition for the UK in regards to the economy. And may I say, finally and utmost, that we are not Jamaica, we are not Trinidad and Tobago, we are Cayman. We are our own country. We are a striving and great and successful country, and we've been that way with or without independence. Cayman is also, a destabilized economy. We've enabled it ourselves. So what would cause us to destabilize it ourselves? Cayman may have a $600 million debt, but I can tell you the US has a $3 trillion debt, and they are still a great country. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope personally that in 2025, it will be the Cayman coat of arms on the back of that wall rather than the UK. Thank you.
Thank you, Speaker, for the proposition, final speaker of the evening. Ladies and gentlemen, I know you just did, but let's give them another resounding round of applause. Now the judges are going to be escorted by the official timekeeper to a room that they can confer and do their summation. And when they return, the chairman of the judges, Dr. Honorable Linford Pierson, on behalf of the panel, will present their findings and also announce the winners.
On behalf of the 3 judges, I wish to extend sincere thanks to you for inviting us here this evening to participate in this moot. We were very, very impressed by the positions given by each team. This is a very serious subject, and I thought that the team did a very good job in presenting their case. The question was regarding the future of the Cayman Islands, and it stated here, the debate moot stated that the Cayman Islands should set a date for independence from the UK to be no later than the year 2025. And we thought, the 3 of us, that the participant did a fantastic job in defending their position, the proposing team and the opposing team. It was obvious that a lot of research and study went into the presentations made by each team. It was a difficult job for us. We did not find it easy to make a decision, and I'll leave our decision to a little later, but I'd like to make a few comments. It was agreed amongst us judges that perhaps in keeping with what we were asked to do, which was the reporting judge must give a summary of the strengths and weaknesses of the debaters and will announce the winning team. It is very important that the feedback is constructive and specific to a team, and not just generalization. The school wants the feedback so they know how to improve for the next debate. We will not be critical or unjustly critical, but there were a few issues, a few points that we felt needed some comments. On a question as important as setting a date or suggesting a date for the independence of the Cayman Islands, many issues need to be brought into account, least of which is not the economic situation. There are several situations. We need to be looking at a sort of a cost-benefit analysis in our minds. We need to dig into the pros and cons. And I'm speaking here not only as the chair, but somebody that have given discussion or consideration to independence over the years as a member of the Legislative Assembly, like my colleague, Mr. Roy Bodden. And this is a matter that deserves a lot of consideration. At one stage, we even had a group, like a think tank, private think tank, to advise on this. When we are considering independence, we have to think more, not just in terms of the pride that it brings to the people of the Cayman Islands, because it's more than that. We got to be thinking in terms of what can the Cayman Islands benefit. Why should the Cayman Islands enter into independence, and how can the Cayman Islands benefit from independence? When we look at that, we've got to also consider, from a cost point of view, what will it cost the Cayman Islands to become an independent country? We cannot compare the Cayman Islands with places like Canada, Australia, Jamaica, or the United States. Why can't we do that? Those countries have natural resources that you can fall back on. Just like Jamaica, for argument's sake. Jamaica, for 10 years after their independence in 1962, did very well. But then the bauxite and the aluminum and other natural resources started falling apart until they reached a situation which was pretty serious economically. And I do not want to go into all the details, but many of you know that story. On the other hand, Barbados, which is an independent country, a smaller country than Jamaica, has had fairly good success. Now, again, we cannot compare America, that gained its independence sometime in 1776, and its true position in about 1783, but we do know that America has a lot of natural resources that they can fall back on, like South Africa, like Australia. Why am I saying this? I'm saying this to say that in considering independence for the Cayman Islands, we will need to look very clearly at what is it going to cost us at the economic side. What are the benefits we are going to derive from that? There are two pillars to the economy of the Cayman Islands: the financial sector and our tourism sector. If tomorrow we decided on independence, what would actually happen within our financial sector? These are rhetorical questions. I'm not expecting an answer, but you need to be internalizing those issues and asking yourselves, what would be the position? So there are issues that we feel that need to be given a lot of consideration. It's not enough to say, you know, we can make it on our own, we deserve it. The UK has never done anything for us. It is true that the UK could have done more. I was one of those that felt disappointed, for instance, after Hurricane Ivan. I felt much more could have been done. But it's that flag flying over the Cayman Islands that has done a lot to assist these islands in reaching the economic status that we have today. If that was removed, we might have to be considering our own external affairs, our defense, our embassies in countries. There are a number of issues that we need to be looking into. This is why it was so difficult for us to make a decision of a winning team, because let me tell you, I'd give my IT if I had some of these young people in my political team in my heyday, because they did a fantastic job. But you know, I know time is running out, and even though I'm trying to delay this report, I have to give it to you. As difficult as it was, we found that the opposing team gave a very strong position as to why we should not put a timeline on independence. But perhaps we should be asking a question similar to what was asked in the Scottish referendum. The question was something along this line: should Scotland be considering independence, becoming an independent country? A question which would suggest that sufficient research would be done into the pros and cons to determine what would be a sort of timeline, a timetable to set once you have determined that. And it's difficult to draw that distinction, because the same argument could be put to why not work toward doing it within 10 years. So putting a timeline on it, a timetable, could put you in a bit of a position. But to ask the question, you know, should this be done, would suggest that you would be working toward a particular date. So, ladies and gentlemen, let us put our hands together again for the proposing team and the opposing team, who did a fantastic job. But to say that the judges unanimously felt that there was not a strong enough argument for the moot, the position brought by the proposing team for the Cayman Islands to seek independence within a time frame of 10 years. The opposing team were able also to show the reasons why we should be careful and cautious in considering what position that these islands should take. But there were a lot of strengths in the position put forward. It was difficult for us to start picking anything apart. And we want to say that both teams did very well indeed, but we found that the opposing team had a stronger position as to why we should remain as an overseas territory of the UK until such time as we are able to get a good basic reason or reasons why we should move into an independent state. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, Chairman, and let us congratulate the winning team, the opposition, the Layman Scott High School. I now call to do the presentation of the trophies. President Sandy Cram from Rotary Central and Rotarian Sumander from Sunrise. And I just also want to let you all know as they come that the judges' scores are all remain in the custody of Rotary and are confidential and not subject to FOI rules. First, we'll ask both teams to come, and then we'll present to the winning team first, and the second winning team second.
him? Can you move him? Yeah.
A round of applause to the winners. And the second winner is the outstanding St. Ignatius School. As the judges chairman said, both teams are winners, so congratulations. A round of applause to both wonderful teams. As the teams take their great job. That's right. All winners here. All winners. Future doctors, lawyers, politicians, engineers, hoteliers, leaders. I want to congratulate and thank all the parents and grandparents and supporters and mentors. Yes, yes. The men are being outnumbered, and we want to call men, the debating teams, to come forward. Well done. Again, thank you to the judges for a difficult but a fine job, and to the chairman for giving us a bit of history and good context and outlining the rationale of the judges. Now I'd like to call immediate past President Larry Tibbetts to do the closing remarks, but as he comes I also want to thank Martin Wilkinson, who is the videographer this evening. He accommodated us at short notice, and he's available to video any of your events as well. So see Martin afterwards if you want to do that.
Good evening. Mr. Chairman, Past President Mario, distinguished judges, fellow Rotarians, students of the St. Ignatius High and the Layman Scott High, teachers, and everyone else this evening. It is my privilege to be able to stand here and thank you for being here. Thank you to the schools for participating, and it's been a great privilege that we can bring yet another debate to final conclusion, and it was a most exciting one, and to know that we had such great judges this evening, thank you. And it is our pleasure that we can do this, and we look forward again in our Rotary year, the 2015-16 Rotary year, to again bringing another great event to you. I'd like to finally thank our sponsor, which is Britke, and of course our co-sponsors with it is also Rotary Sunrise. Thank you all for participating. Ladies and gentlemen, enjoy the remainder of the evening in the foyer, and thanks for coming out. We thank you.
Thank you, good night, and God bless. Drive home safely. And those from Cayman back, enjoy your visit to Grand Cayman.